41 of the Making Stories podcast. I'm Annalisa, your host for today and always, and I'm so glad to welcome you back to the second episode in this new setting. Thank you so much to everyone who commented after the last episode. You just made me super happy because it seemed that the new surroundings resonated with you. Someone commented that they're a lot calmer and less busy, which I completely agree. And I quite like that. And then there was also a lot of encouragement for me now doing solo episodes now that Claire has left Making Stories. So yeah, welcome back. If you're a new viewer, come on in, grab your current work in progress and settle in for like 30, maybe 45 minutes of just talking about knitting and sharing what I've been working on. I have my little list of things that I want to talk about with you today. So there's going to be a little bit of everything. We're going to start with the knitting and then talk a little bit about what's been happening here at Making Stories, and then end with a little announcement. So, what have I been working on? I have finished Aurin's sweater. Yay! I have this nagging feeling that I might have finished it. No, I definitely didn't finish it before the last episode, I don't think. If I have, huge apologies. This is the state of my brain at the moment. Aurin's new winter sweater, he hasn't worn it yet, but we're about to head into a really cold spell right now, which is why I'm looking out that window. It's gorgeous, bright blue skies, sunshine, but it's gotten quite cold here in Berlin. It's supposed to go down to like 2 or 3 degrees centigrade now. I also just realized I completely forgot to even talk about what we are and what we do at Making Stories. So we're an online yarn shop and a knitwear design publishing company. And this is where I share what, has been on my needles, because I am also a knitter, and I mean, that's why I run this business, right? Because I love knitting and I love yarns and I love all things sustainability. So that's our focus here at Making Stories. Sustainability in the knitting world. All right, let's move on, shall we? So, Aurin, if you're new to this, is my 3-year-old who absolutely adores all things knitted, and it just makes my heart melt when he says, "Mama, I like it so much when you knit." I'm like, "Oh, baby." Yep. So, Aurin asked for a new winter sweater, and I'm very happy to oblige because A, it's cold and we're trying to not heat as much, and also because, I mean, you gotta cherish those years when they're asking for hand knits, right? So I made him a sweater based on TinCan Knit's Flax Light pattern, which is a delightful top-down raglan sweater pattern. As I said, Aurin is 3. I made the size 6 to 8 years based on the measurements of his favorite sweater. He's quite tall. He's about 1 meter tall. And I kind of noticed that I think, especially the chest measurements, they don't have a lot of ease with the Flax Light pattern, and I quite like the kids' clothes to have a bit of ease because it's just easier to move around in. So I knitted quite a few sizes bigger. And I also omitted the garter ridges on the sleeves because I felt that the yarn does all the talking here. So let's talk about the yarn. This is some beautiful 100% organic wool yarn by my wonderful friends over at Garthenor Organic. Johnny and his mother Sally run this fabulous company based in the UK. We carry some of their yarns. They're delightful people, and their yarns are just really good. And they were super kind and let me tag along to Unravel back in September to help out with their booth. And then when I got there, a little bag was waiting for me with this yarn. because I had previously said that I think this would make a great sweater for Aurin. Thank you so much, Johnny and Sally. You're the best. So the marled blue, let's get this a little bit closer to you so you can fully appreciate it, is their latest release, a yarn called Teifi that is completely inspired by their quite recent move from their family farm to cardigan, to new premises. And this is the colorway Meander number 6, and it's a lovely royal blue with white. And as the contrasting color is the same gorgeous, gorgeous blue, but on a different base that's called Pentland, which is also in their range. It's their sort of the 2-ply yarn, fingering weight yarn, 2 plies, so 2 strands of yarn twisted together to make the yarn, and fingering weight yarn that they carry. And it's the same specs as Teifi, so it knits up really, really well together. And the colorway, just the blue, is called Paphos. Yeah, as I said, top down, I made a few modifications. So I knit a folded neckline, which means I did a provisional crochet cast on, and then knit a twisted rib for about, I would say 6 centimeters, so about, what is that? 2.5 inches. And then I unraveled the provisional crochet cast on and took a second circular needle and picked up the now then live stitches from the provisional cast on, and then knit them together in pattern. So knit 2 through the back loop together, purl 2 together, with the stitches on my needles. And this creates a lovely rounded, can you see this? Hello, focus, focus, focus. Rounded edge here. Here is where the stitches are knitted together. And then I knit 1 more round in the blue, so that I would have a nice clean edge, and then transition to the marl. As for the hem, I did a tubular bind off because I think it looks really nice and kind of echoes the roundness of the neckline. But then for the sleeves, I was a little bit torn between doing the tubular bind off and Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, because I want Aurin to be able to pull up his sleeves like this when he's washing his hands, for example, or playing. And I felt, as much as I love the tubular bind off, and it's actually okay stretchy, I was like, okay, no, like I don't want him to have to struggle with this. So I did Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. So the bind off on the cuffs looks different. There's a little bit of fluff there. It looks different, but I don't think it's, I don't mind actually. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it. As I said, he hasn't worn it yet. He's very sweet. He's very precious about it. He's like, I don't want to get it dirty. What if I spill something on it? I'm like, it's fine. It's there to be worn. That's what, that's what our knits are for. They're here to be worn. So I'm going to have him wear this. I'm going to offer it to him to wear. We let him pick out his own clothes. So we don't, enforce any clothing rules other than if it's cold, you need to wear long pants and a jacket. So hopefully he wants to wear it. Yay! I'm very delighted that this is done. Speaking of sweaters and sweaters that are ready, I know that some of you will ask what I'm wearing. And before diving into my works in progress, this is Bindweed, a lovely cardigan by Xenia Nigyon that we published way back in issue 5, which is sold out in the print edition, but it is available as a digital edition. And we also have this pattern as a single PDF on the website. Bindweed by Xenia Nigyon. I knit this a couple of years ago in the original yarn that the pattern calls for, which is Knitting for Olives Merino, held together with their soft silk mohair, which are delightful, and I hope that we're going to stock them again at some point. So yeah, that is that. The other thing that I'm knitting on is something that you have seen in the last podcast episode. So I wanted to do a quick progress report on my Lueur Shawl by Audrey Borrego. This is from our latest issue, issue 8. Let me find a picture for you. This is how it's going to look like in the end. So it's a delightful asymmetrical triangular shawl with lots of different textures in 2 different colors. And I think the last time that I recorded, I had just started the second section. So the first section that you start with, the main color, is a lot of lovely little texture. And then you introduce the second color, or the contrasting color. And then you do sort of like slip double moss stitch. I have no idea what the actual name for the pattern is, but it's quite fast because you do a lot of slipping with the stitches, and it's nice and stretchy. I really quite like it, and I really like the look of it. Like, has this gorgeous nubby, almost 3D texture. And I have just finished, before recording, I was in a call with my sister and I was knitting on this because I really wanted to finish the third section before I recorded, which is when you start working only with a contrast color and you do these delightful bubbles on garter stitch background interspersed with twisted stitches, and I really like it. It always takes me a little while to get into the rhythm of bobbles, but Audrey has a fantastic little tip in her bobble instructions which help that the bobble stays on the right side of the fabric. You can see that, like here, for example. Let me just pop that bobble through. There is a bobble, but that's when I was not quite getting those instructions. And so it took me a couple of bobbles until I actually made them so that they stay on the right side of the fabric. Which I'm quite delighted by. If bobbles are not your thing and you want to make this shawl, you can totally just leave them out. The texture is still going to be gorgeous. What I really like about this shawl and the textures is that they are different. Like they're different enough that it's really entertaining to knit because you just want to get to the next pattern section. But they kind of echo one another, if that makes sense, without being the same. Like, for example, in the green texture section, you have little sort of twisted cables running up, and then a little bit of garter stitch. And then here you go full on garter stitch, and at the same time the lines are echoed in a different way, like by being worked as twisted stitches. So I quite like that the elements are the same, but the execution is a little bit different. It kind of makes it feel connected. It's not just 3 very different stitch pattern tacked onto one another, but it's like one design vision that carries through the shawl, and I quite like that. So I am going to start the 4th pattern section tonight, which is when you work with both colors again, and I'm really excited. And then there are more sections, like one more section of each pattern, but with different lengths, so it kind of gets varied. I really like working on this, and I really like working with this yarn. The yarn that I'm using is a yarn that we just recently started carrying. It's by a fantastic US-based company called Hudson and West Co. That's run by a team of 2 women, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, Sloan and Megan, and it's wonderful. Their yarns are 100% source spun dyed in the US, and it's a mix of Corriedale Merino, and it's a delight to knit with. I've knit with their worsted weight yarn before it, that's called Forage, and for Lueur, I'm knitting with their fingering weight yarn, that's called Weld, which is a semi-worsted spun. Okay, there's a little bit of plant thing on there, doesn't matter. which is semi-worsted spun. It's a really lovely, plump yarn. It's a 3-ply yarn, just double checking. And it has really beautiful stitch definition, as you can see. The colorways that I'm using are Gold Leaf for the main color, so that's the grain, and Aspen for the contrasting color. There are tons more color combinations that you can put together with, the colors that we have in the shop. So if you like the shawl and gold, green, and white are not your thing, go take a look. It's really good. It's really good yarn. The reason why I haven't progressed more on this shawl, so Aurin sweater been done for like 2 weeks, almost since I last recorded, was that I was working on something that is going to make a sneaky little preview appearance here. But before it does that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our winter celebration, because the thing that I was working on and that needed to get done, well, the second thing of that also needs to get done, but I really wanted to work on that shawl. So is something that has to do with this year's winter celebration. If you've been following us for a while, you know that for the past 2 years, we've always closed out the year with a virtual event that we call the Winter Celebration. It runs from December 1st to December 10th, and it's completely free. It's like a virtual advent calendar, but completely non-religious. So every day we open a virtual door, and behind the door is, or can be, a recipe, a song, a discount code, a pattern, and this year we're doing it again. If you are not signed up yet, head over to our website, makingmanusstories.com, and up in the navigation bar, or if you're on mobile, hit on the hamburger, like the 3 minuses menu on the left, and then you'll see Winter Celebration 2022, and you can just leave your email address there, because we'll be sharing those virtual doors every day, December 1st through December 10th, with that email list. This year, for the first time ever, we are pairing our winter celebration with a box, our winter celebration box. I bought myself an advent calendar, a hot chocolate advent calendar, for the first time in years last year, and I really, really just enjoyed creating a lovely little ritual for myself. So at the end of every day, you know, when everything was done, Kit was in bed, stuff was cleaned up, I would heat myself a cup of milk and then make myself the hot chocolate and just sit down and relax and enjoy my cup of hot chocolate. I was just 5 minutes most days, because back then Aurin was 2. Life with a 2-year-old, I felt was quite a bit more stressful and unpredictable than life with a 3-year-old. It was just honestly what I needed. 5 minutes for myself every day, just to calm down, because no matter whether you celebrate or not, and if you celebrate what you celebrate, the end of the year can be intense and it can be full. And I think we often forget ourselves in that. So with this year's winter celebration, I want to invite you to create that little ritual for yourself. And you can do that and combine it with, you know, opening the virtual door that we sent to you. I also wanted something physical, because I found the tangible act of making that hot chocolate was a really good reminder for me that the hard and full part of the day is over, and now comes the gentle, relaxing part. And so for this year, I've also put together a winter celebration box that has 10 gifts in them, one for each day of the winter celebration, that you can open with your little ritual. And it's designed for the knitter. I'm assuming that you're a knitter. So hopefully it's designed for you. So there is yarn, and there is going to be knitted things, but there's also going to be cozy things. So yeah, I'm really excited about them. The winter celebration boxes, so we did a pre-order for them. We kept some back, so they are ready to ship. We have about 10 to 12 left, I think. So if you are interested in that, head over to the website makingmenstories.com, and again, the winter celebration thing that will also take you to the winter celebration box. We do have, well, two things. One, the winter celebration box qualifies for free shipping, which is great. So, no additional shipping charges. And if you order this before November 27th, the postal service guaranteed that it will be there before Christmas. Now, if you want it in time for the winter celebration, I really strongly recommend ordering it rather sooner than later, because the winter celebration starts on December 1st. Now, a few of you have asked whether there's going to be something a bit more affordable than the winter celebration box. So the winter celebration box sells for €149.90, that is. And I completely understand that this might not be in the budget for everyone. So what I've done is I've set aside a small quantity of the yarn that we have in the winter celebration box and added one of the other goodies to them. And so there's a $49.90 option now as well. That is just the winter celebration scheme, as I call it. So I hope that if the full box is not within your budget, or if that is not something that you would like, but you still want to get the yarn, that would be a good option. Okay, it's put away. You can open your eyes again. Welcome back. Alrighty, so we've talked about the winter celebration box. I just double checked that it's still recording, which it is, which is great. Which you can find in the shop. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about some other things that have been happening here at Making Stories in the last 2 weeks since we saw each other. One is a blog post that we published, which is all about gift knitting. So I kind of feel like either you're a gift knitter or you're not. I tend to alternate between the years. I quite like knitting as a gift, but it's also really time consuming, and it can be a little bit scary because you're like, okay, I don't really actually know the size that I'm gonna knit, and I don't know how quickly I can finish things. And so for this year's gift knitting blog post, I've put together a roundup of patterns that are quick to knit, but also really fun to make. So they are, just enjoyable knits, lots of texture, all of those things. I also kind of feel like I've talked about the blog post in the last episode, which kind of makes me now question have I done that? I think I might have done that. If I have, forgive me. As I said, that's the state of my brain. So gift knitting roundup, including a lovely Pinterest board with lots more pattern ideas than are in the blog post, is on the blog right now. The other really exciting thing that has happened in the last couple of weeks here at Making Stories is that we had the photo shoot for our issue 9. So issue 9 is our spring 2023 issue under the theme In Bloom, and it's going to be published in March next year. And we had the photo shoot here in our apartment a couple of weekends ago with our lovely photographer Melinda and Carmen, who has modeled for us the first time now, and she was an absolute treasure to work with, and it was so delightful. I can't wait for you to see the pictures. It was really, it's challenging doing an In Bloom spring photo shoot in Berlin in October, and November. And so, yeah, it was a bit like, is the weather gonna hold? Is it not gonna hold? So we decided to do an indoor shoot here and got lots of lovely blooms from the farmer's market. I was just so happy because we did the photo shoot on a Sunday, and the Saturday I went to the farmers market where we have a big flower stand every Saturday, and they're delightful. Like the people who run it, they were delightful, and I was like, I'm looking for photo shoot things. I kind of want to have this color scheme, you know, and like the flowers that they recommended, they were just purely amazing, and the star of the show was a big eucalyptus branch that's just absolutely gorgeous. So all of the flowers are drying now because I just want to keep them. They were so beautiful. A part of the whole working on the magazine and layouting it process is that after the photo shoot, I mean, we start working then on the layout. Melinda also has to edit the photos, and that's quite an interesting process. I think, because I'm sure you're familiar with that. The same photo looks different whether you look at it on a laptop screen, a desktop PC, or your mobile phone or a tablet. And the same is true with paper. If you print something, the way that it looks and the way that, for example, colors show up, that will highly depend on the paper that you're working with. So if you have a really white paper, you know, the colors will be a lot clearer and crisper. If you have a grayish paper, the colors will look muddier. And one of the interesting things about issue 9 is that we're changing our printer and we're changing our paper. So we're still printing on 100% recycled paper, and we're still printing with a printer here in Berlin, but I wasn't quite happy with our previous one anymore and looked for an alternative, and crossing my fingers that the one that we're working with now so far has been excellent in what they've been doing and what they've been recommending. Why are we switching paper? A couple of reasons. One, our previous paper, Aurin, sorry, I'm blanking on the name. Aurin Star Nature, something like that. Sorry, I'm just completely blanking on it. It was or is an uncoated paper, which means it has an open surface, so the color kind of, you know, dries down into the paper. The paper soaks up the ink, and so the colors, you know, when you first get it like from the printing press, the colors stand on top of the paper, and then over time they sink into the paper, so they become a lot less vibrant. And so the one reason why I wanted to change the paper is that I wasn't quite happy with it anymore. I am incredibly thankful for Melinda because she always puts in a lot of time to edit the photos. But I also had to realize that, you know, some of the most gorgeous photos that we have, they just don't look really good on the paper. Like, they don't look as vibrant and as crisp as I would like. The other reason is that the price of our paper has doubled from issue 7 to issue 8, and it's doubled since. So I was also looking for something that is maybe a little bit more economically feasible for us, because I don't want to have to keep increasing our price, our magazine price. And the lovely folks at Königsdruck here in Berlin, where we're going to print from now on, they were absolutely stars in working with me on a replacement paper. So we looked at a lot of different paper samples and settled on something that's called Cyclus Silk. It's, as I said, 100% recycled paper, and it's also a Blue Angel paper, so it has the highest environmental certification. It is a coated paper though, so the colors will be a lot more vibrant, and it is also whiter than the paper that we are printing on now. And what I'm also really excited about working with this new printer is that they have an LED printer, which means that after the paper spread has been printed, it gets dried under LEDs, which helps set the ink. So the ink kind of stays on top of the paper instead of sinking in. So I'm really curious about this. How does this all relate to the photo shoot? So the photo shoot, when we're done with the photo shoot, we always start the printing process with something that is called the proof. So a proof is where we send off a set of photos and colors to the printer to simulate the final print product so that Melinda, our photographer, can see how her photo edits will actually look like on paper. And whether she needs to, you know, dial up the warmth or make them a bit crisper or make them a bit colder. So the proof is the intermediate step between the photo shoot and editing and the printing. And I got the issue 9 proof in the mail the other day. So I thought I would show it and share it with you, because I think it's also exciting to show you how something like this looks like. So this is how a proof looks like. It's about an A3 paper, and you can see there are lots of different photos on here, all of which have been edited by Melinda, and you can already kind of see the shine. So the interesting thing is, this is not the final paper that we're printing on, but the way that this is printed simulates the final paper. So it's not a 100% guarantee, but it's supposed to get as close to the final product as possible, which is where also these color thingies here come into play and stuff. So yeah, and I think it looks absolutely fabulous. I am so in love with this. Like I am so excited for this collection, and I am just so delighted with the proof as well. Like it's so good. It's everything that we wanted, Melinda and I and Carmen, for the photo shoot. So yay! Okay. The last 2 things, I'm just looking at the time, that I want to talk about today are kind of shop related. So if you're not into that, feel free to tune out, but it's not going to take long. So maybe if you want to stay for 5 more minutes, you can. The first one is that I wanted to mention our Making Stories Collective, which is kind of like our Patreon, but just for making stories, which is a great way, if you like our work and you want us to stick around, that you can support us a little bit. Because as you know, for small businesses like ours, the last years have not been easy. I'm talking a little bit more about why we started the collective over on our website, and then you can read through it and then decide whether it's for you or not for you. We offer 3 different tiers: €5, €15, €45, and they come with different perks, and maybe that is something that is of interest to you. So I'll include the link in the down bar below. If you like this podcast, if you like, you know, the work that we put out there, then it's a great way. It's a great way to support us. Yeah, it is. The other thing that I wanted to chat about is Black Friday, because Black Friday is coming up next week, November 25th, and for the first time ever, we are actually going to do a Black Friday sale. And I wanted to chat a little bit about what we're doing and also why we're doing it, because I think the way that I perceive, especially on Instagram, sort of smaller businesses tackling Black Friday can be one or the other. And I think people either do sales or they don't. And if they don't do sales, then they kind of think they have to justify themselves for it. So let me first start by saying what we're going to do, and then I want to dive a little bit deeper into the intricacies of it. So our Black Friday sale will run from November 25th through November 27th, so the entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. and it will be for 50% off all print copies of our back issues, 25% off of the print copies of our current issue 8, and an additional 10% off on top of the 15% that you already get when you subscribe to a print edition. So 50% print back issues, 25% print issue 8, 10% print annual subscription. That's what we're going to do. We run our numbers. I'm a numbers person, which is why way back in the middle of the year, I was like, shit, the numbers don't work. If we don't change things, A, I'm not able to pay myself, and B, we might not be around for a little bit longer. Kind of tying back into the collective thing. So if we're running a sale like this, you can trust that we've run the numbers and that we can afford to do the sale. Full transparency, we can offer 50% of print issues, print copies of back issues, because we, when we first started, printed a lot, like a lot, because we wanted to drive down the cost per copy, the printing cost per copy, which means that for issues 1 through 4, as well as our kids collection and the first 3 books that we did, we have quite a lot of stock left. Issues 5, 6, 7, and 8 is a different story. Issues 5 and 6, they were sold out. Issue 7, we still have a robust batch, and issue 8 is the latest one. We also still have quite a few copies of that. But that's the reason why, we're able to offer that. And I would really, really love for some of those copies to go into loving hands. So if you've been, with Making Stories for a little while, you kind of want to fill some holes in your Making Stories collection, or you like what we do and you want to gift a copy to a friend, the Black Friday sale, I think, is a really good opportunity. Also, the option if you want to subscribe, because 10% off on the already 15% reduced price for the annual subscription is quite a good deal. I think when it comes to Black Friday sales, my wonderful friend Ash, who you might know as SunflowerNet on Instagram, has done a few really good stories on them. And I'm paraphrasing here, but what they said is basically this. When a small business runs a Black Friday sale, then they've run the numbers and they can afford to do the Black Friday sale. Possibly they are in a cash flow situation where they might need the money, which is also when sales come in handy. And if they have not run the numbers and don't know whether they can afford it or not, it's not the customer's problem. That being said, if you can afford buying from small businesses at full price and support them through that, that is obviously also highly recommended. Like if you can afford it, it's if you can pay full price, paying full price is obviously better for the business than taking advantage of a sale. But we also know, and I also know, and that's also the reason why, we're running this sale. Things have been hard for a lot of people this year, especially, in the, basically everywhere. What am I even going to say? Like everywhere, things have been hard, and especially also financially, things have been tight. And so I think a sale is also a great way to, send of things into loving hands that might not otherwise be able to afford it. And so I think, we as this business, we are able to afford the sale, and that's why we're doing it. If a business is not doing a sale, then that's also completely within their rights. And then they might not be able to afford it, or they might not just be in a position where they want to do it. And that's also okay. So I think there are as many answers to this Black Friday predicament as there are businesses and as there are people on this world. A couple of tips, because I mean, Black Friday can just also feel completely overwhelming. I, you know, mute any emails, unsubscribe from any emails, heck, even our newsletter, or just, if you are subscribed to any of our emails and you scroll down to the footer of the emails, there's the manage email preferences. And then you can select which emails you want to get. If you don't want to get like the Black Friday emails, for example, there's not going to be a lot of them, but you can just uncheck the product launches checkbox. Just keep subscribed to the newsletter, and that's it. And if you want to get the product launches, you get the next newsletter again. You click on the manage email preferences link again, and then you just tick that checkbox again. Like, as easy as that. So yeah, that was my little, introduction to our Black Friday special. I hope that was an interesting kind of insight into the workings of not just making stories, but I think also small business owner minds. And yeah, as I said, our winter celebration boxes are ready to ship. If you want to get one in time for December 1st, place your order now. They'll go out as we get the orders, and I'm really thrilled that, soon it's going to be time to open those virtual doors again. Thank you so much for being here, for sticking around, for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Maybe hit subscribe on that channel button. Share it with a friend or 2 or 5. And then I'll see you again here in 2 weeks. Bye.